You were there. You listened when she needed to vent. You remembered the little things, her favorite coffee, her bad days, the way she liked her hand held. You showed up. You stayed faithful. You were kind. And yet, she left. No big fight, no betrayal, just a distance. Then coldness, then silence. Now you're replaying everything in your mind, trying to find where it all went wrong. You ask yourself, what more could I have done? But what if you're asking the wrong question? What if she didn't leave you? What if she left the feeling that once came alive when she was around you? Because women don't fall in love with logic. They don't stay because of effort or consistency. They stay because of what they feel. And when that feeling fades, so do they. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Most men try harder when things slip, but the Stoic man pauses, observes, accepts what is. He understands that love, like weather, changes, and no amount of force keeps a storm from passing. So instead of chasing answers in desperation, you start to see with new eyes. It wasn't about how much you gave. It was about what she felt, deep down, often without words. This is the beginning of clarity, of reclaiming your presence, of returning to yourself. She didn't fall for your job, or your style, or even your kind words. She fell for the way her heart raced when you walked in, the tension in the silence, the way she felt seen without needing to speak. It's not you she loved. It's the version of herself that came alive in your presence. You were the frame. She painted the picture. And when the colors faded, when the emotions dulled, she didn't leave you. She left the version of herself that no longer stirred. See, women live in emotion like fish in water. They don't always need to understand what they feel to trust it. They just know. And when the emotional experience shifts, so does their sense of connection. That's why you can do everything right, say the right words, show up with consistency, and still lose her. Because while you're focused on logic, she's responding to energy. While you count actions, she reads vibration. Not, did he do this for me? But, how did I feel when he did? And when the energy shifts from mystery to routine, from intensity to predictability, what once felt like fire becomes background noise. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In love, a woman's emotions become dyed by your presence. Your energy, your calm, your mystery, these are the invisible colors she absorbs. You don't have to perform. You don't need to impress. You just need to be rooted. Because in the end, she won't remember every word you said. She'll remember how she felt standing next to you when you said nothing at all. You thought being available would make her feel loved. That answering every message right away, always saying yes, and showing up at her doorstep unannounced would win her heart. But instead, she grew colder. You gave more. She felt less. The more you chased, the more she drifted. And now you're left asking, how can my presence feel like pressure? Because feelings don't grow under a microscope. They grow in space, in absence, in mystery. When you're always there, every moment, every day, there's nothing left for her to wonder about. No room for curiosity, no contrast between your presence and your absence, no emotional journey, just certainty. But certainty kills seduction. Chasing removes tension. And without tension, her heart has nowhere to rise. There's a moment in every connection where a woman needs to feel the pullback. Not to test you, not to punish you, but to breathe. To ask herself, do I miss him? To sit in silence and feel the echo of your presence in your absence. The man who's always available may seem romantic, but he becomes invisible. The man who knows when to step back, who disappears not out of fear, but out of calm, he becomes a mystery, and mystery activates emotion. Stoicism teaches us this. Your value isn't measured by how much you chase. It's measured by how calmly you hold your center when nothing chases you back. When you stop running toward her, you give her the space to walk toward you, not because you manipulated her, but because you gave her a gift most men never offer. The gift of emotional freedom. And in that space, she remembers, she wonders, she feels. She tells you she wants someone kind, someone who listens, someone who supports her. So you try to be that man, You agree. You bend. You do everything to avoid conflict, to please her, to make sure she never feels upset. And slowly, without realizing it, she starts to lose respect for you, because what she says she wants and what she responds to are rarely the same. She doesn't want a man who obeys. She wants a man who stands, not against her, but within himself. She wants a man who can look her chaos in the eye and not flinch. A man who doesn't change his tone just because her mood does. A man who doesn't dissolve the moment emotions rise. Women, whether they admit it or not, often feel like emotional waves, rising, crashing, retreating, returning. What they crave isn't a lifeguard who panics at every ripple. They want an anchor. They want to crash and find you still there, rooted, steady, unmoved. Not cold, just calm. Not distant, just deliberate. The nice guy tries to fix her feelings. The Stoic man respects them, but doesn't take ownership of them, because he knows what Epictetus taught. We cannot control what others feel. We can only control how we respond. You don't become an anchored man by force. You become him by presence, by stillness, by knowing that her storm is not your weakness, unless you let it be. She doesn't want you to say yes to everything. She wants to feel your spine. She wants to sense that even when her world is spinning, you stay grounded. That's not cruelty. That's leadership. That's love with a backbone. She didn't fall in love with you. Not exactly. She fell in love with an image, a feeling, a projection of who she thought you were. It was never just your face, your voice, or your actions. It was the story her mind told itself about you. Maybe you said something clever one night, and she painted you as wise. Maybe you stayed quiet in a crowd, and she imagined you were deep. Maybe you looked at her just long enough, and she convinced herself you saw into her soul. She filled in the blanks. She shaped your outline, and the more she felt, the more perfect you became in her imagination. But here's the problem. When the real you showed up, when you exposed your doubts, your needs, your inconsistencies, the picture started to crack. So you tried to explain, tried to reason, tried to prove, I'm still that man you loved. But the more you explained, the more the illusion crumbled. Because love, for many women, isn't built on logic. It's built on emotional perception, on how she feels about you, not who you truly are. And when those feelings shift, reality starts to feel like betrayal. The Stoic man doesn't fight projection. He observes it. He lets her believe what she needs to, without attaching himself to her fantasy. Because he knows, impression is illusion. Stillness reveals truth. He understands that love is always personal, but rarely objective. And that trying to force someone to see you clearly often pushes them further away. So he doesn't shout, he doesn't chase clarity, he simply holds presence and lets the truth emerge with time. She may say she wants excitement. She may chase intensity, drama, the rush of passion. But when it comes to staying, truly staying, she stays where she feels safe, not entertained, not obsessed, not swept off her feet, but emotionally grounded. Because love without safety becomes exhaustion, and even the wildest hearts eventually long for rest. She doesn't need you to rescue her. She doesn't want you to fix her problems. What she craves, often and without knowing how to ask, is a man who can stand calmly beside her while the world shakes. Not panic when she spirals, not lecture when she cries, not disappear when things get complicated. Just stay still, rooted, present. Most men confuse providing with protection. They think money, plans, or promises will keep her, but her heart listens for something deeper. The emotional silence inside you that says, no matter what happens, I won't be moved. That is what makes her breathe deeper. That is what makes her body relax. That is where trust begins. You don't create that kind of safety by force. You don't create it by begging her to see your worth. You create it by becoming the calmest presence in the room. A man anchored in himself is more powerful than a man chasing her approval. Stoic wisdom says, you are the calm, not the chaos. So don't compete with the noise of the world. Don't react to her storms. Be the stillness she didn't know she needed, until she found herself running back to it, again and again. She'll never say it out loud. She won't tell you she left because the feeling was gone, because even she may not fully understand it. But deep down, she felt it. Something changed. The spark dimmed, the emotional safety dissolved, and slowly, without malice, her heart slipped away. You tried harder. You gave more. You explained, reassured, chased. But love doesn't respond to effort. It responds to presence. You cannot make someone stay. You can only become the kind of man whose stillness is missed in absence, whose calm becomes her anchor, whose energy lingers long after the words are forgotten. That's what Stoic men understand. We don't chase, we don't beg, we become. We become the kind of man whose presence creates space, not pressure, whose silence speaks louder than pleading, whose stability awakens desire, not duty. If she comes back, it won't be because you convinced her. It'll be because she missed the feeling of being around you. The calm, the weight, the grounding. That's what you master here. So if you're ready to reclaim your calm, your presence, your power, subscribe to Stoic Device for Men and become the man she can't explain, but never forgets.